Good morning, everyone. Welcome into the third edition of LFP Live. As you know, we are here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. I see some people are already in chat. People are up early. You love to see that. I'm here with Brian. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Great start to my Sunday. Always happy to get out there this early and without having to leave the house. So it feels like I'm being social, but I don't actually have to leave. It's a perfect balance for me.
We're being social with the LFP fans. They're here with us live on a Sunday morning. Um, and yeah, Matt Hyman in chat here right off the bat saying good morning. What a comeback. I mean, what a way to start your Saturday. If you're a Jets fan, 11:30
Oh,
start. And I guess maybe by the time it actually got entertaining, it was kind of the mid-afternoon time there. But yeah, down 3-0 going into the third, a big 5-goal comeback. We will get into that in just a second. But good morning to everyone. Yeah, people are here
yeah.
in chat. You love to see that. We're here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Elliot wasn't able to make it today, just Brian and I. But yeah, let's get into this 5-3 game. A huge win, a 5-goal period, the third unanswered. Brian, what were your thoughts on let's just talk about the third period, because I mean the first two periods, I mean they turned the puck over a few times, looked like that Dallas first period, but that third period, that comeback, what'd you see?
Well, firstly, you guys can all thank me for the comeback because I was watching. They were absolutely laying an egg, and then I left to go grab a bite to eat, and everything happened.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I went back and I rewatched that third period, and it was just a level of this is not how we want to go out on our own terms, and this is not our terms.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a thing of beauty to see how quickly they strung together those goals to, tie it up and then to take the lead on, a Pyotr Kochetkov masterclass outside the crease.
Yeah,
Um,
if you see the thumbnail of this LFP Live, it's him like, I don't know, 10 feet outside of the blue paint,
like,
diving for a puck.
dude, you're
I was
outnumbered. Like, don't do it.
shocked to see that. Yeah. I mean, he'd been poke checking all game, and he had been doing kind of like chaotic things. That's like kind of his MO in net. But man, in a one-on-one race, and and you really jump out there, and I guess he made the play on Nemesnikov, and then Monahan, it got poked off. But speaking
Well, I mean,
of
he
like,
missed two poke checks on two other goals.
right,
On the Nino little forehand backhand hello,
right.
and then the Scheifele, he missed two poke checks there, so he's like, you know what, I'm gonna go all in on this one, and then he just whiffed entirely.
All in with 3 minutes left. Yeah, that's really interesting. But speaking of, I mean, the second period, they go down 3-0. Some mistakes. Rick Bowness talked about a bad line change, some penalty killing issues, or power play issues, sorry. And then the power play gets them the tying goal in the third, and they erase that 3-goal lead in what, 4.5 minutes, five
Yeah.
minutes? Unbelievable. And speaking of like watching and then not watching, one of my good buddies, Jacob Stoller from the Hockey News, he was going to the Moose game, which started at, I believe, 2 p.m. that day. And it was the end of the second period. The Jets were down 3-0. It wasn't looking too good. I was like, if I got changed and went right now, like I could make it for the start of the Moose game. And boy, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have completely missed that, or I would have listened to it on the radio, I guess, on the drive there. But wow, what a
And some
period.
Paul Edmonds
Um,
action there.
Paul Edmonds, yes. Winnipeg Sports Talk, Remus actually put together he always syncs up the radio call with the goal. He did it for Scheifele's goal. Is great. Paul Edmonds
Oh,
is awesome. But yeah, what a game. I mean, we've got some people in here giving their thoughts. Thank you to everyone who's joining us right away at 9 a.m. We really appreciate it. The goalie's job is to tend the goal. That was the first thing I tweeted out with the clip of the goal. I said, if you're a goaltender, ... And then the Jets even posted a TikTok of
with Steve
the
Dangle.
Steve Dangle's voice saying like 10 the goal is great. Yeah, the offensive intensity of that third period. Scheifele's forechecking. Kim brings up a great point here. That first goal of the third, Kyle Connor's goal. Mark Scheifele is battling away in the corner, and he like looked so determined to win that battle. He was battling for over 10 seconds, fighting off multiple checks just to like shovel a puck 2 feet to Nikolai Ehlers. Like it wasn't to, get into the slot and get a grade A chance. It was just to keep the possession alive. Ehlers
Yeah.
Morrissey made a play, and then Kyle Connor one-timer. And the Jets got going, and it was because of Mark Scheifele. I thought that was one of Scheifele's best games of the year. I mean, that period as well. Ehlers played an incredible game. Josh Morrissey as well. What can you say? That the stars came to play, and Connor Hellebuyck was again a star in net. Was there anyone or any play in particular that you look back on and you're like, that was more important than we thought?
Well, I truly think that I have seen time and time again that the Jets will get 1 or 2 goals back, and then they'll settle back into whatever style they were playing beforehand because it's closer. And then they can't muster up that third goal. We've seen it a few times. Like, and a game that kind of reminds me of it is the Dallas game I think it was on the day of the West Final, where
Yes.
they went down and then started clawing their way back in the third, and then could not get the tying goal.
Right.
It felt as if they knew in every way possible they had the momentum after they got those first 2 quick ones there, and they took total control. And from that point forward, you could just tell. I mean, the Canes called their timeout, didn't matter.
Yeah.
I truly think the biggest thing for me is they did not take their foot off the gas, regardless of how sort of momentum shifting it was, and that was massive. And seeing guys like Nino, be difference makers, and Scheifele and Connor scoring, and also just like really nice goals. Like they're like a lot of them just
Yeah.
weren't super just like fluky things, like the little forehand backhand shelves and everything, getting
Yeah.
the goalie to slide out of the crease. It's there's something so beautiful about it. But
Scheifele's goal
they were
was
loud goals.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And Scheifele's goal was gorgeous. I mean, Josh Morrissey kind of pokes the puck to him, and he's got all day. Kochekov poke checks one way, he like backhands the other way to tie the game. Like that was one of the nicest goals of the year, especially when you take in all the context, the fact that they're storming back. Jeff Kabilis in chat, a loyal WST chatter listener, big fan of the pod. So thank you, Jeff, for joining us on this Sunday morning. Says Paul Edmonds is the best. Love him from his Gold Eyes days.
His Gold Eyes calls are
Yeah.
absolutely outstanding. Listen, just briefly, I'm going to take it on a tangent here. My favorite, like almost of all time in terms of just sports calls in general, the Gold Eyes are in the playoffs. It's like the 10th inning, and they ended up winning the game on a 3-0 blast from Barbero Canizares, who sent the ball into the river, I'm fairly certain. But he swung on 3-0, and Paul Edmonds, they had a camera in the booth with him because that's when the games were still on Shaw. And he
Mhm.
was like slamming his legs, and like he's rounding third and on the way to home. And I'm sure you guys
Yeah.
can hear it with how he calls Jets games. But that call has stuck in my mind since the day I watched it. And yeah, whenever I hear his voice, I'm like immediately I just immediately think of Barbero Canizares. Yeah,
Yeah.
Cabillas knows what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And he I know a lot of people that do sync up the radio call with the TV broadcast, because they appreciate Paul Edmonds. He's been doing this a long time. But lost in all of that also is the fact that Dan Robertson had a game. Like in terms of
Oh,
calling the comeback, like I was watching it on TV, and he had me so interested in the game and like so fired up. And then when Monahan scored, like he's the Jets fans are so unbelievably lucky to go from Dennis Bayak to Dan Robertson, and this whole time on the radio it's been Paul Edmonds. Like that is an unbelievable trio of play-by-play commentators, and Dan Robertson was fantastic as well. Scheifele almost danced through their D. Yeah, he had a ton of opportunities like that. Really like Samberg's game, poised and confident, good decisions. Again, when Dylan was suspended for those 3 games, I thought those were Samberg's 3 best games of the season when he was elevated. And again, last night I thought he was great. Carolina is a really good forechecking team. They throw a lot of shots on net. He handled it well. Kabila saying Nino needed to get those goals. It was awesome, and to do it against his old team was even sweeter. 100%. I think in the post game when they do the Jackets, Nino said like "way to take my money" or something. So you know how NHL players put like money on the board. He clearly put like money on the board because it's his old team, and the Jets stole his money because they won. Matt saying Stanley didn't stand out in a negative way. I agree. I mean, I think he's jumped in here and kind of filled in, plugged holes, and he hasn't looked too bad. Especially after not playing since December. He had a few games there when Dylan was suspended, obviously, and he's been okay. Like he's I think he's been a serviceable seventh defenseman that can step in. What did you think of both Samberg and Stanley on the back end? Because obviously Morrissey.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that Dylan Samberg is the guy to be the next top 4 guy whenever, because that's the thing. Like, there's a solid chance that we lose a top 4 guy in free agency. Like, there's been a lot coming out recently about, Brendan Dillon. Does he find his way to Vancouver in the offseason? That sort of thing.
Right.
And I think the Jets are seeing now that second pairing with Dylan Samberg on it is going to be just fine. And that to me is such a great thing to see, because he was bouncing in and out of the lineup last year. Whether that was rightfully so, I'm not going to, delve into that, but he was. Like, that's the thing. Like, the coaching staff saw him as that bubble guy that they could bring in and out. Now he's the one to move up, and I can only imagine they're seeing good things from him. And then Stanley, I've been critical of him in the past, but I haven't seen anything overtly to the level of what I would criticize in the past so far in his games this season. Like, he has moments, he always does, but like, I feel like those moments are decreasing. And I think that's a good thing. And I have to say too, like, I think we have to give some flowers here to Nate Schmidt for that pass to Nino there on that goal, because he has been doing a really good job, even if the offense isn't there necessarily. He has done a really good job this year with his pinching and deciding when to activate, because he doesn't just activate. Like, he's going to be down at the goal line doing things. And his little backhand saucer pass across there was just gorgeous. And I truly think that is exactly what needs to happen for the Jets to be successful. Is you need to have that good balance of what Schmidt does normally, which is, for the most part, play a really good defensive game. I mean, him and Samberg have put up some of the best, expected goals against numbers in the entire league, but he also is a very smart player. And I know that obviously there's a lot of chatter about, his future with the team and his contract, and that's totally fair. But for the time being, when he's here, if he's doing that, that's exactly what we need from a guy on the third pairing, is someone who can make a difference offensively in addition to his defensive game.
And as kind of like a puck mover, there are times where his puck management is spotty. But like you said, that pass on the Niederreiter goal is fantastic. There's one angle kind of from Niederreiter's side, and you see Schmidt coming down the wing, and Niederreiter's not open until he's like in the slot and with the puck's on his stick. And Schmidt kind of peeks, and then he's still skating, and he doesn't look again because he knows Niederreiter's going to be open, and then puts it right on his tape, allowing Niederreiter to go forehand, backhand. If that puck's wobbly, if that puck's in his feet, he can't do that. He just is going to have to shovel it on net, right? It's a flat pass right on his tape, forehand, backhand. And yeah, that was a huge goal. And then the Jets get the power play like a minute later. And then 20 seconds into the power play, Scheifele scores. There was a barrage, and it was so much fun to watch. Stanley did well in the penalty kill as well. That is very true. His penalty killing talent is something that the coaching staff has referenced and why he's in the lineup. So it's nice to see that kind of shine through. Matt Hyman saying, imagine if Samberg Pionk was the third pairing. I believe I posted actually yesterday. Their expected goals is like 64% or something going into that game. Yeah, they work together. And we're
going to talk about that more, I think, later with some of our trade talk, because we're definitely going to bring up some defensemen. But no, Matt, having a pairing like that as a third pairing would be the best thing that could possibly happen to that third pairing is just it feels way more of like a difference making, and it feels way better for Neil Pionk.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And sheltered minutes for Pionk might see a bump in his analytics and his play, and we'll definitely talk about that in a bit. But that sample size I posted about was from when Dylan was suspended. Samberg moved up, and those two were great in the two Leafs games and one game kind of sandwiched either before or after that. But yeah, DeMello will be cheaper. Dylan will take his talents elsewhere. Those are the two big. I mean, there's those two. There's Peretti and there's Monahan for who the Jets have to sign this year, and I think they have roughly 14 million in cap. We could talk more about that later as well when we get into trades, kind of what their cap sheet looks like. But yeah, that's huge decisions on the back end because Rick Bowness loves those two guys. They play big minutes. Kabila saying TSN Jets did a good job bringing in Robertson and hometown guy John Liu. Couldn't agree more. The television broadcast is fantastic, and yesterday was a perfect example. Yeah, Dan Robertson doing his thing. Shame about Declan Chisholm. He's going to be a good NHL defenseman. He has actually looked pretty good for the Wild. I think that was kind of expected to happen just in training camp. They were expected to lose Chisholm. They lost him all this way into the season. Not to make that okay, but yeah, he's actually been pretty good for the Wild so far. I think sitting Cole will light a fuse in his game. Well, I sure hope it does from Kabilis here. I do want to talk about this, so now is a perfect time.
Yeah.
Cole Perfetti didn't play yesterday. We won't know until warm-ups because the Jets aren't skating today. They do play tonight, 6 p.m. against the Sabres. We won't know if Perfetti's playing until tonight. But Brian, Cole Perfetti scratch. Do you think it's the right idea? Do you think it was the right time to do it? And do you think it'll help him going forward?
I think it was the right idea. I'm not sure if it was the time to do it already down a forward.
With Velarde, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But it felt like it was inevitable. Like, regardless of if you agree with it or not, it felt like it was happening regardless. And the unfortunate fact of the matter is when something like that happens and the team does something that loud in the comeback, it would not shock me to not see him out there for warmups and just they roll with the same lineup as they did yesterday. Maybe not the same lines, but the same personnel.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that, as I said, whether you agree with it or not, it's a point where, Perfetti's going to have to show that it meant something to him to get back into the lineup. And that's just the way, Bonus talks about guys. And like, you can debate all you want about, the fact that, some guys, get the treatment that they do and some don't. And I get that. There's a lot of questions I have about, timing of certain things and, you guys like Perfetti getting publicly, called out by the coach and some guys not, but whether you agree or not, he's been struggling as of late. And I do think that playing him with some offensive guys would help spark his game too. But I feel like this is what the coach sees as another option to spark his game.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think also when Velarde was out, I was kind of thinking that this might be the perfect opportunity to get Perfetti back up into the top six, maybe playing with Connor and Scheifele. This was before all this news. I thought maybe, Velarde's out. Maybe this is the perfect time to give him a shot, Carolina afternoon game. Give him a shot on that top line, see what happens. They went the other route. They scratch him entirely, which is fine. It worked out fine. Well, for the first two periods, it didn't work out fine. And then they reunited Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers, and there was just a massive trickle-down effect in that forward group, and that top line just dominated. So I think if I don't mind, I think he comes back in tonight, if I had to guess. On the second night of the back-to-back, Gustafsson hasn't played in a long, long time, and he just came back into the lineup. So I don't think they're going to keep him in on that second night of the back-to-back. I think Perfetti will be back in tonight, depending on where. I mean, if it's the fourth line, whatever. Again, like you said, he's struggling. And you just got to see slow improvement in his game. And yeah, I think the Dallas game, I think that turnover early on really, really cost him, and they don't like what he's providing to the team right now. And you can't really blame them. And yeah, this is a good point here in chat. Smaller, younger guy, played a lot of games against bigger men. A rest could be what he needs. that is true. Rick Bowness kind of alluded to a mental reset for him, like taking the pressure off of himself. Bonus basically said, like, you get to this point where you put so much pressure on yourself to produce on the fourth line that you just get so tense and start making plays that aren't like you. And I think that pass in that Dallas game that he turned over is a prime example of that. That's him trying to make a play that's maybe out of his comfort zone, trying to do too much. And we know he's a great passer. We know he has great vision. And that's a really uncharacteristic turnover from a guy that doesn't make those very often. So maybe that was the breaking point. They just say that's not Peretti. We know that's not him. Let's just give him a game off. And I don't mind bringing him back against Buffalo, putting him right back in the lineup, because again, second night of back-to-back, you have a million games in the month of March. You're going to need to rotate guys in and out. So yeah, I think he comes back in tonight if I had to guess, but I do think it was the right idea. I honestly do think it was the right time to do it as well. Carolina's a really good forechecking team. He's coming off that rough game against Dallas. Again, for 40 minutes, it didn't work. And then they switched the lines in the third and it did work. Right. So that's kind of the interesting talking point there, because if they don't switch the lines in the third and they don't end up winning, maybe we're sitting here talking about how it just didn't work in general. But it ended up working because they made a big change. Nikolai Ehlers on the top line, what I alluded to there, resulted in a trickle-down effect. I think the second line was Nemestikov, Monahan, Iafallo, who scored the game-winning goal. Niederreiter scored 2, obviously, and then Cal Connor and Mark Scheifele each scored on the top line in the third. Do you want to see the Jets? Obviously, we've been very vocal. We want to see Nikolai Ehlers on the top line, but do you want to see them roll with that same top 9 configuration of Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers, and the rest being the rest?
I don't care what the rest of it is, as long as Scheifele and Ehlers are together. There is like a several year sample size that show that those two, regardless of who their line mate is, are a better combo than whatever it is without Ehlers.
Yeah.
Like, and especially this year too. Even like, that's the thing. Guy, Scheifele, Ehlers has been a absolute dominant force. Doesn't matter if it's Connor, doesn't matter if it's Vilardi. They have linked up for some of the most dominant periods of hockey that we have seen from this team in years. And as I said, there's a sample size from, whether it was like, injuries to Blake Wheeler or whoever was moving around in the past. When Ehlers moves up and plays with Scheifele, those two make magic together. That being said, it feels as if both coaching staffs from before and now believe that a lot of the chemistry is because of Scheifele and Connor, I think there's
offensive chemistry there, like in spurts too,
like spurts, but like it's just not like as similar to the Ehlers thing. There's such a sample size to show that those two, without Ehlers, they don't have it. Like even if they do score, they're going to get outscored. And I feel like you have to have Ehlers playing with Scheifele for this team to reach their offensive height. And whether that's because that's the thing, there's a chance Vilardi comes back tonight. Mm-hmm. And like, do you immediately do you put just Vilardi on the second line with I guess I'm trying to think of who would move, because they've kind of been jumping guys all over the place.
Yeah. Vilardi's actually now that you say this, I'm remembering it from yesterday. Vilardi was sent back to Winnipeg for the
I didn't see that
evaluation. So he won't be playing tonight, but he could play Tuesday, and your point still stands for where he comes back in the lineup.
Either you put him back on that top line and reunite the dream team of Vilardi, Scheifele, Ehlers, or you put him on the second line with Monahan and I'm assuming Iafallo. Yeah. And if I recall correctly, they were slow, but they were a decent line when, like, I think Monahan and Vilardi together were, they were all right. We know that Iafallo has, had success on that second line. And I feel like the best, like if you're not going to reunite that, the Vilardi, Scheifele, Ehlers line, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen, there's been plenty of opportunity to do it. I do think that the next best thing is to have Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers, and then figure the rest out. And I also wanted to say one thing. I forgot to mention this earlier. Mm-hmm. the thing that I also noticed of the Carolina game, that third line had a great game. Um,
Yes.
the sustained pressure was great, and I feel like it seems like when they click, um, it is a matter of time that the rest of the team sort of finds the space. But yeah, no, I think the top nine configuration has to be someone Scheifele Ehlers and then figure the rest out, and then Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton.
Yeah, right. And look, the Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde line, the number, they outscored their opponents 15-4 when they were together. The analytics were there. The expected goals number was through the roof. But the Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers line, not as dominant, but also very good in terms of the analytics, outscoring their opponents. I think after yesterday's game now, they've outscored their opponents 6-1. Obviously, smaller sample size than the Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde line that was together for a month and a bit when Kyle Connor was out. But I agree with you. I think for tonight's game especially, Buffalo, keep that line together, see what happens. And I think that they're going to do what they usually do, and that's dominate the analytics, expected goals, and even outscore their opponents in the real goals, which is all that matters, right? Last thing on kind of this Carolina game before we move on. Choice STK or Choices TK brought up a good point here a while back that I've been saving here. But will the Carolina win be a turning point game? We know the Jets haven't been kind of themselves. Like they won 7 of 8 against some bad teams coming out of the All-Star break. But the 5-on-5 game hasn't really been there. That third period was more like that was Winnipeg Jets hockey, as Rick Bowness would say. That was 5-on-5 dominance. They even scored on the power play. They shut down the Hurricanes entirely. Hellebuyck did have to make some big saves, but that was more what we've seen all season long. And I don't know who brought it up on Twitter, so I'm sorry that I can't associate this to whoever brought the idea, but they brought up the fact that the LA game was a massive comeback as well earlier in the season. And they ended up winning that game 5-2 on the road. Velarde's revenge game. That was a high emotional game. And this is very, I don't want to say similar, but another huge comeback win against a really good team on the road can kind of give them momentum to roll through March and be a turning point game. Do you think the Carolina game we could look back on and be like, wow, that was the turning point where they really refound their game and rolled through March?
I think at the very least, at the very beginning of March here, I think it needs to be, because it needs to show, I think, the front office that this team is worth continuing to spend on. They've already put a first round pick out, which to me signals that they're not finished, because you wouldn't, just deal out a first round pick if you're not even considering further improving the team.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that this is your opportunity to, I don't know if you saw this yesterday. I don't typically listen to them because there's a lot of chaos and stuff I don't agree with, but of Spit and Chicklets,
Yes. Yeah.
an unnamed NHL player called the Jets the biggest frauds in the NHL. They're in the Western Conference. They are in a playoff spot, and they could face the Jets in the first round. And there's
I bet if you gave me 5 guesses, I could. If Ryan Whitney, like, you hooked him up to a lie detector test, I bet if you gave me 5 guesses, I could. Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jamie Benn, like that 1 and 2 done. Like LA, Dallas could both meet. Like, honestly, I think if it's not one of those two, there's a good list of players who you could probably guess. But anyways, keep going.
But my point with that was, this is the Jets' chance to be like, oh, you think we're frauds? Let's roll through the rest of March and let's see what you think. Let's win the Central and face off against let's win the West. Let's do that. And it's like, then what? Because clearly, you're not a fraud if you're leading the league for almost the entire year. You're in the top 5 in the league for the last 5 months, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the schedule here, and yes, there's a lot, but there's a lot of gimmies in here too that you need to take the points from. Like, you're facing like the Kraken are very up and down, and then you get a space where you play the Canucks again, which another statement game, I think. You get
Could be.
teams like the Capitals, the Ducks, the Jackets, the struggling Devils, the Capitals again, and then the
Yeah.
Senators to finish out the month. Like those are a lot of games you need to win. You
Mhm.
cannot give those easy points away, because then you also face playoff teams. You face a lot of playoff teams this month. As much as it's weird to me, the Predators are in a playoff spot. I didn't
And they're
anticipate that at all.
rolling. They're
They've won what, 7
rolling.
or 8 straight.
Yeah, I think it's 7 straight. They just beat the Avs 5-1 last night.
Yep. The
Seeing
Rangers,
them.
the Oilers are coming in at the end of the month. Golden Knights, as we know, have a little run here where they've beaten us a lot in a row.
Mhm.
So that feels like another one of those games, especially because that's at the end of March. That's going to be rolling right into playoff season. If you can come
Yeah.
out near the end of March, and at that point too, we have no idea where the playoff race is going to stand and who's
Right.
clinched, who hasn't. But end of March, you get the Oilers and the Golden Knights back to back.
Yeah.
Like that is a
And I believe they
huge
end their
stand there.
season. Yeah. And I believe they end their season against the Canucks at
They
home.
do.
Like it's the final game of the year. So that could be for the 1 seed in the West. I mean, that would be pretty cool if that game actually had some stakes. Or like the number 1 spot in the league, even. I don't know. We'll see.
Exactly. Could be President's Trophy.
It could be for the President's Trophy inside Canada Life Center. That would be huge. That would be awesome. But anyways, yeah, I totally agree. There is a lot of gimmies in March. They are playing a lot of hockey, but this could be a game where they made a great point here. More of a statement than a turning point, saying like we're still here. This could be a game where they kind of refined who they are or who they were for that first half of the season and just roll some teams. Like Buffalo today, they beat Vegas last night 7-2
They
at
dropped a
home.
touchdown
So
and an extra point on them. So
yeah, yeah. Like I don't know that there's no
they're a
to
weird team.
kind of your point. Yeah, they are a team that definitely is like has some issues, but they're a young, skilled team. I know coaches and Rick Bowness like to say that about every single team. Like Chicago without Bedard is a young, skilled team. It's like no, they're not. But they are. The Buffalo Sabres are actually a young, skilled team. They have a lot of skill in their forward core. So tonight's going to be an interesting game to see if the Jets can shut them down. We're going to take a break here in just a second. Thank you, everyone who's here live and commenting. We really appreciate it. Our 3rd edition of LFP Live after a huge win, 5-3 win yesterday. When we come back, we're going to kind of lightly recap the loss in Dallas, then get into tonight's game against the Jets and Sabres. I did a kind of light preview there, and then we were going to talk about trades. The trade deadline is Friday, March 8th. It's coming up. Like Brian said, like I've said many times, I don't think the Jets are done adding. And we'll roll through some names, what positions, and then at the end of the episode, as we always do and will do going forward, we're going to take questions from you guys. So stick around for that. But we will be right back after a word from DraftKings.
We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved.
And thank you once again to DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. Brian, I kind of previewed it before we went into break there, but the Jets are playing the Sabres tonight. What are you looking for? The Sabres flying high, coming off a 7-2 win against Vegas. And the Jets also flying high, coming off a big 5-goal third period in Carolina. What are you expecting tonight?
Give him a quick start because you need to keep the good vibes rolling from that Carolina game. If you
Yeah.
can keep that same attitude that you had in the third period, the second you get into this game, you're fine.
Yeah.
Because I also don't know who's starting for. I didn't see who started for the Sabres last night
It
against
was
Vegas.
UPL,
Okay,
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
so
So,
either he starts on the second night of a back to back, or we get who's there? I don't even know who their other goalie is this year, to be honest with you.
well, it's been Devin Levi at times. It's been I don't know. While you search it up, I'll say I'm looking for the Jets to okay, I'm looking for line rushes and warm up. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I want the Jets to keep that top line together. Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers. We've talked about the analytics, how dominant they were in the third. If they do keep the same lines, we kind of know that line's going to be great. I'm also looking for that second line: Iafallo, Nemesnikov, and Monahan. Three players who are great on the forecheck and can make things happen, and they did on that game winner. So I'll be watching definitely the top six. I know that's kind of a cop out because everyone's going to be watching the top six, idiot. But anyways, yeah, Eric, who is the starter? Who is the starter?
It's see on Daily Faceoff, it says unconfirmed Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Oh, again? Okay.
But Eric Comrie on the
Mm,
Score app is listed as expected. Um,
revenge game. Revenge
so
game.
yeah, we will see. But yeah, like it wouldn't actually shock me if we see UPL again because he's young. They're really giving him a run here, and he's
Yeah.
been up and down this year, but he's finally looking like a guy who might be able to take that next step for them. So
Yeah.
he might be tired, but he is good. So it wouldn't shock me to see him, but I mean, it also wouldn't shock me to see Eric Comrie, and he's played against us, fairly recently in terms of like actually like playing against the Jets. Like not obviously not like recently in terms of the actual schedule, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. I get you. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, like I said, Buffalo's a really young, talented forward core. And they have Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power on their back end. So they really have a lot of talent on that team. I'm assuming Brendan Dillon is going to be out again, considering he was out yesterday with an illness. Maybe he's playing, but if he's out again, or even if he's playing, I'm looking to see if the Jets are able to shut them down, especially Dylan Samberg. There were some commenters earlier on in the show saying they were impressed with his game. I'm looking for him to follow that up tonight. Again, I guess a team that's fast. They're Tage Thompson 6'8" and can stick handle in a phone booth. Like he's unbelievable, and he has one of the best shots in the league. He's a former 40 goal scorer. I'm not sure if he hit 50 that year, but he's unbelievable. And they've got a lot of guys: Dylan Cousins, Jeff Skinner, a lot of players up front that are really, really good. So I'm
Team
looking to
should be
see
better
Dylan
than they are.
Sandberg. They really should. They're a team that's them and the Ottawa Senators feels like every offseason their super young core is like about to take that jump. And with Ottawa, we're like hitting the point where like everyone's in their prime, and it's like, all right, what are we doing here? And they're still not very good. They can't get a save. But with Buffalo, it's like, here we go. Tage Thompson is on an incredible contract. They're so set up. Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin. They also at times can't get a save. UPL's been good for them, but yeah, CMAC hits it on the head here. There's really no reason why Buffalo isn't a really good team. Tons of talent, maybe too young. They're strange. Yeah, I mean, games in the NHL, learning how to handle a long season, that's a real thing. I mean, through a Jets
I think
lens,
it's a
Cole
coaching
Peretti.
issue too.
Yeah, I mean, they've been through multiple coaches, I think, though. Maybe
But I
all
think that
bad
there
ones.
is a certain, I don't know if it's the front office seeing this. I feel like they think they need to be more of a complete team, and they
Mm,
bring in guys who don't capitalize on the fact that they've have some really really good offensive talent. I'm sorry,
yeah,
a team that has that level of forward group should not be, you know, only averaging, the 22nd most goals per game in the league.
yeah,
Like, I'm sorry. That's not something that, you like there's that. They do shoot the puck a lot. I'm like, "Oh my god, are they turning into Carolina of the last like 5 years?"
yeah,
You've got a bunch of offensive talent. They're focusing on the other side of the game and shot volume. Like that sounds like Carolina to me, and it took them a bit to get to that point, but I'm just thinking of what a coach, that would sort of actually try and use some of this outright skill that they have in the roles that they needed, and seeing where that team would go. Because right now, like it's hard to look at that roster and be like, wow, they need to be more than one game above 500.
That their yeah, I agree. And their third line, according to Daily Faceoff, Zach Benson, Casey Middlestat, JJ Paterka. Like three, like Casey Middlestat, I think is 25 now. So I don't know. Like he still falls under the category of a young player, but he's hitting his prime for sure. Zach Benson and JJ Paterka, two young players that are going to be top six forwards in the NHL. And like they're on their third line. And like, yeah, they're young. Maybe that's the problem. Like CMAC says here, maybe they're too young and they're a few years away. But man, that's their third line. They have Dylan Cousins on their second line. They have Alex Tuck, Tage Thompson. Like, man, they're Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. Like that core, like just on paper, sounds unbelievable. And then maybe Devin Levi becomes like this elite starter, and they're hopefully like a squeak in playoff team. Like Buffalo just needs to make the playoffs. Like this doesn't even need to be like this core takes them to the Stanley Cup. It's like just give Buffalo a playoff team.
Yeah.
Anyways, it feels like they've been suffering for too long. As Kabilis outlines here, I feel bad for the Sabres. They're almost there, but not even close to being there. 100% agree. It feels like every year they get hyped up and they don't make it. But yeah, let's talk about trades now. I think that's a good kind of preview of Jets Sabres. As I said, trade deadline's this Friday, March 8th. We're going to be going live. I know a ton of Winnipeg media outlets are going live. Obviously, there's TSN Trade Center. There's going to be a ton of things that day for content. But Brian, what do you think the number one need is for the Jets to address? If you're here with us live on YouTube, drop a comment below. What do you think the number one thing the Jets should target is? Brian, what are your thoughts?
So I feel like it's hard to say that because it's very situational. Because the one defenseman that I think the Jets could target that would actually be able to fill the role that I would like him to be in is Shawn Walker. And Shawn Walker, I think, is not going to end up here. I feel like someone else is going to outbid the Jets. And I think Walker would be a perfect fit on that second pairing as a puck mover. It's a guy who's really good defensively. But I also realized that anyone who's not him, I wouldn't trust to be played in the right role. Like,
Fair, yeah.
I personally would love to bring in Carrier from Nashville. Firstly, I don't even know if Nashville's selling at this point.
Right, because like we said, yeah.
But like, I also don't know if he's a guy that bonus plays in the top four, because then obviously I am a huge proponent of the fact that it does not matter how tall you are as a defenseman as long as you move the puck fast enough. Carey is only 5'11", and a lot of people are holding that against him. But I'm like, okay, but watch how he plays. He plays a game that would benefit the Jets greatly. If you move the puck up to that forward group, you're going to be good. And yes, Matt, Dylan Walker would be a fantastic pairing, and I've been thinking about that for a while. But yeah, I feel like another thing too is we also have heard recently that Walker might be re-signing. And so all of this is to say, I think that a forward is the best option, because I feel like you can acquire an impact guy to fill that. I feel like there's an open spot on that second line, because clearly they've viewed Peretti as not that guy. They move Iafallo around. They move Nemestikov around. I think what you need to do is you need to acquire a guy who can put the puck in the net, who isn't a slouch defensively, and put him on that second line wing. And my ideal target, I would love Pavel Buchnevich, either too expensive or I don't see it happening.
2 first-round picks apparently is the price.
Yeah. I mean, at least for now, that'll probably go down. But I think my ideal target is Anthony Mantha from Washington. If you can somehow package him with Trevor Van Riemsdyk to have him as like a third pairing at the very least. And like, I love Nate Schmidt, and I was talking about him earlier. I think you need to bring someone in who takes the revolving door of Schmidt Stanley down a little bit. And that's the thing. We were saying that Stanley has been, better than what we have made him out to be in the past. I also just don't think that, it's in your best interest though to have those two as like the rotating thing. So if you get a guy who has been like, I've been a huge Trevor Van Riemsdyk fan for a long, long time, and I've had him as a target last year. But I truly think that Anthony Mantha and just looking at Washington would be a fantastic fit. He's a great defensive player. He scores even though they don't play him there.
Yeah.
He would be, I think, in the top 3 in Jets goal scoring, despite being in very sheltered third, fourth line minutes because Spencer Carberry in Washington has no clue how to use anyone outside of Ovechkin. Because I feel like the entire point of that is just to get him to the record.
That's the entire point of the Washington Capitals at this point. They're actually like close to a playoff spot, weirdly, but like they're not really. Like they're like Nashville last year. They're there, but they're come on. Like let's be real.
But if you run though Monahan and Mantha together with another one of the forwards who has been sort of going on that line, because there's a bit of a thing there where it seems like, as I said, there's a revolving door. I feel like that is a line that could take you deep into the playoffs because the thing is too is Mantha plays the right way, as Bonus would say. He is very strong on the defensive side of the puck, who can also bury it, and that's a very rare breed of guy that would be possibly available.
Yeah, and I think Mantha, Lowry, Niederreiter would be one of the most like physically imposing lines in the league.
But
like,
you have options.
That's just 3 massive people, like on it, like at the end, like at the absolute minimum. Those are just 3 massive people that will get pucks deep, play the right way, and just be physical in the playoffs. And yeah, there's real value in that. I think that would be an upgrade on Appleton in that spot too. And then Mantha, obviously, like you said, there's options. He can play a top 6 role. He can play a Nino Niederreiter style in a top 6 role. I mean, one might argue that playing on the Lowry line is playing in a top 6 role, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on is Mantha if they do go the route of a scoring winger. I think the way to go is getting a defenseman. You outlined it off the top. Shawn Walker, I think, is the number 1 option on the board. So how realistic is he as a potential acquisition? I'm not sure because it feels like a lot of teams are in on him. You look at a team like Edmonton, who desperately needs a top 4 right-handed defenseman, and one that can move the puck up to McDavid and Draisaitl and those guys. I think they are going to go all in on Walker if he's even available. I can't tell if this whole extension thing for Sealer and Walker is like
it feels like a value play.
Yeah, it does, because they also came out with a report that they're looking to package them both in a deal. Like send Walker and Sealer to the same team. And I'm like,
wild to me.
But they're trying to extend them both. I don't know. I think they're going to trade Walker for sure. I think his value's so high. They signed him for super cheap in the offseason or got him in a trade. I'm not sure how they acquired him, but they got him for cheap. And now he's playing at a top 4 level. He's playing great. So I think they move him. And I think Alexander Carrier from the Nashville Predators, I think, is a great fit as well. Like you said, a puck mover, 5'11". I mean, sure, he's not big, but Neil Pionk's not that tall either. And they work on that second pair, Dylan and Pionk here and there. So I think Carrier, if he was playing the right role, that being with Dylan, moving Pionk down to the third pair. I talked about the Samberg Pionk expected goals numbers earlier in the year, hovering around 64%, which is unreal and that would be unreal for a third pairing. I think Carrier upgrades the puck moving in the top 4, and gives you a younger option if you want to re-sign him instead of a DeMello going forward, or a Dylan in that top 4, right? I think that's the way to go, and that's the way I'd go, and I think that's the way they're gonna go. Is either I don't think Walker or Carrier. I also threw out Jacob Chikrin in an article recently. I think that's very unlikely. I don't even think Ottawa moves him. But if he's on the board, again, another puck mover that can play both the left and right side. I think we've got like what we're going to see either, I don't know, these next couple of days or on the trade deadline day is the Jets making 2 more moves and they're both just kind of depth moves for one depth move for a forward maybe, and one definitely, I think they definitely add a defenseman, whether it's they go for a top 4 guy and use the Montreal second rounder, or they just, throw out a 4th and a 5th and go acquire a steady 7th defenseman. We'll see, but I think they definitely add a defenseman, and Matt Hyman bringing up Sealer blocks a lot of shots. That would fit well in the bonus system for sure. And do you think the Chris Tanev move affects what the Jets are going to do in the next couple days here? Because if the Stars hadn't acquired Tanev, I could see a route where the Jets just stay with Monahan and that's their move. But now that I think that the Stars have added Tanev, I think now they might go for that and really, I don't know, because that's their main competition in their division in the West, arguably. Them or Vancouver. Vancouver made their move as well. But what do you think? Do you think that changed their plans at all?
I mean, it can't, hurt the fact that they probably need to, make a move now. That's the thing. We've seen, obviously the idea of you need to bolster the defensive group, you need to bolster the forward group. I just want to quickly bring up, just because it was something that was brought up in the comments here. Ty Emberson from the Sharks has kind of come out of nowhere and started playing really, really effective hockey. He could be a guy that as you said, bring in a depth guy if that top 4 isn't available. And I think that he would be a great fit on that third pairing. But what you also have to look at here is Colorado. They have not made a move yet. They will. Yeah. I'm certain they will.
They're getting
something
second line
notable.
Forward. They're getting a second line forward, whether it's a center or a winger or whatever. They're getting one. Yeah.
I truly think. I think the Jets make one depth move. I think that's a guarantee. They always do it. But I think there is one more notable move in Kevin Cheveldayoff's bag here that we need to figure out what that is. It feels as if the forward market is more available to make an impact move. That defensive group, unless there's a guy off the board that we haven't seen yet, which would not be out of the character of Kevin Cheveldayoff, to just call a team and be like, hey, this dude available? We saw that with the Stastny move. It felt like any big move the Jets have made. The Monahan one was really the first thing for me that I was like, we were linked to him and then we traded for him.
And he was at the top of every trade board. And
exactly.
You could
but
see it
felt like every deal that happened before this in terms of bigger names kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously the Stastny deal, there was some linking between the Nino deal. There was some linking between the Jets and the Rangers on Hayes, but it was kind of like, oh, he's like a top 3, trade target. And then they brought him in. It's a situation where I truly think that the best organizations do a really good job of keeping things fairly quiet. So I think there's something there. And I truly think that the forward group has the opportunity to be upgraded. And I think that's where Kevin Cheveldayoff goes. Because, if we're going to be acquiring as it says there, a 5 to 7 defenseman, just bring up Ville Heinola.
Right.
Because he's going to play that role anyways.
And hey, I could see the presser right now. Chevy saying the trade deadline
internal upgrade.
Internal upgrade. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's a definite possibility. I haven't asked Dave Minuk of Illegal Curve. He covers the Moose. He's been at mainly every game. I haven't asked him how he's looked since coming back, but Rick Bowness in a presser the other week, I want to say, said he's coming along. He hasn't been the same player. I mean, he's coming off of a major ankle injury, so he's not going to be the exact same player. Ronnie bringing up a great question here. Who are you open to trade? Only picks? I think prospects are on the table. I'm going to go out and say, I don't know if you agree with me, Brian, but Rutger McGroarty is untouchable. And not only for the player that he's going to be on the ice and the player that he is right now on the ice, lighting up the NCAA, scored a huge goal last night. I think they were playing Minnesota. And it was 4-4, 3 minutes left, and he banged home a rebound. He's having a fantastic season. You add in the fact that off the ice, his character is through the roof. He's going to be the next captain of the Winnipeg Jets. Like after Adam Lowry, it's going to be Rutger McGroarty. He's been a captain his whole life, every level of hockey. And he's going to be, he has a ceiling of like a top 6, middle 6, power forward, Nino Niederreiter, with finishing talent type, who he might even play a role this season. Missing Monk bringing up a good point here. Bring up Rutger and Ville. I mean, Rutger could play a role in the playoffs this year, like 100%. Like fans would riot if they traded Rutger, Choice STK, bringing up, like, I think he's untouchable, man. Like the impact he's already made on fans off the ice, I think makes him untouchable. He's a future captain of this team. And that's without even mentioning what he's done on the ice and what he's going to do on the ice for this team. So I think he's untouchable. Lambert as well. Definitely I hear out that discussion as well, depending on obviously which player you're getting. But do you agree with me? Is Rutger feels untouchable?
He feels like the only untouchable prospect to me at this point.
Lambert, I think, is very close to.
He is.
I mean, depending on who you're trading for, obviously. If you're trading for Jake Gensel, it's like, well.
That's the thing. Like, I don't feel like you are as reluctant to trade a guy that there's still questions about with Lambert, because like he's only just started to find his way at the center ice position. And I think that he's probably the closest. I still don't know how much they value Colby Barlow because he's still fairly new in the organization.
Just drafted,
I think Chaz Lucius is a name that we need to watch because I think that he still does hold value. I don't think that his injury history has totally tanked his value. But I do still think that he might be a change of scenery guy to have in a deal as a prospect because we're now on injury like number 5 and surgery number 4 for him.
Yeah.
And
rough
for a guy of his age, he was just drafted in 2020. Like it's tough to see because I'm a huge fan of what he can do when he's healthy, but I feel like he is a guy to leverage the existing value on in a deal for an impact guy. And I truly think that, and that's the thing, like I'm very much of the mindset that no one should really be untouchable, but I need to be realistic because the Jets clearly value a lot in what Rutger McGroarty brings to the team now and in the future. I haven't heard them talk about a prospect quite the way they've talked about Rutger. The way they pinning a guy to already be like a future captain material and he's never played an NHL game is insane to me. And the fact that he's doing this and he could win the Hobie Baker this year. It's a situation where I have never seen a situation where the team has talked a player up this much before he has even, got there, and his little stuff during the development camp and everything. And like, it's one of those things where I think that the team views him as untouchable unless you're getting Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. And look, I remember posting videos. I remember being at development camp, seeing him coming out off the ice, and there were obviously younger fans looking for autographs, and there were older fans who, I mean, I posted this one video. This guy walked up to Rutger and just was talking to him. Didn't even want an autograph, didn't want anything. Rutger's standing there, giving him his full attention, having a full conversation with this guy. He just wanted to talk. And I'm like, that, you don't see that. And he's an incredible. And then he spent another 20 minutes on the walkway signing autographs, talking to people, asking these young kids, do you play hockey? What position do you like? It's really unbelievable, and it's rare in professional athletes. And I think he's an incredible leader, and I think the Jets value that in a massive way. And that just screams Winnipeg. Him coming off the ice to just have a conversation with a random guy that just walks up to him, doesn't even want an autograph, just treating him like a normal human being, like a Winnipegger. Like that's Winnipeg. That's just he's Winnipeg. And I think the Jets are excited to bring him in, and he might even play a role this season. We're nearing an hour here. Thank you to everyone who is live with us, our third edition of LFP Live. And as always, we're going to end off the program here with questions. So drop questions below. kind of an Ask LFP. We'll try and get to as many as we can. We're going to try and rapid fire. But yeah, once again, thank you to everyone. While you're down there, drop a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know when we're going live every Sunday. We're also releasing YouTube videos Tuesdays and Thursdays and podcasts. So subscribe there if you prefer the podcast version, driving to work, whatever the case may be. And upcoming this week, we've got a guest. We'll preview it at the end. We've got a guest on our episode tomorrow, which will be coming out Tuesday. But drop your comments below. Brian, this has been a blast. Third edition of LFP Live.
I'm getting used to it now. And, live streams before, I was like, oh, man, everyone's watching me in real time. And now I'm like, now everyone's watching me in real time, but please ask me a question because I want to talk.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like before we get into the questions here, I want to say one quick thing, and I want to know your thoughts on this. Okay. Matt dropped this into the comments, and I don't disagree with it. That being said, I want to bring up my stance on, because I realized I've kind of like alluded to it, but I haven't outright said it. My stance on why I think this is I know last year I went on about it, but this is the year that they go all in. You've got Hellebuyck playing better than he's ever played.
Mm-hmm.
The last year that both Scheifele and Hellebuyck are below 7. Right. So you've got that. And, in a few years, as Matt says, and this is not a shot at you, Matt. It's just using it as a point. Colby Barlow, his shot on the power play in a few years is kind of null and void based on what they do this year, right? So I'm of the mindset that if the opportunity is there, you use what could be a future success to turn it into a current success.
Yeah.
And I truly think that this is one of those years where, in terms of cap, in terms of successes, this might be the point where you have to evaluate and say, this is our best shot to add a true impact guy without going over the cap by too much.
Yeah. I agree. And, it's the saying that banners fly forever. And it's definitely something that the Jets have considered, going all in. And maybe that Carolina game proved to them that, hey, this team is special. This team is different.
Yeah.
What we haven't seen in years past, right? So I definitely agree with you. Let's get into some of the questions.
All right, rapid fire.
Maul. Yeah, let's do it. Not Maul. Should Ehlers stay on the top line even when Gabe comes back? My simple answer is yes.
Yes.
It can be with Gabe. It can be Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde. That line has been incredible. They were incredible when Kyle Connor was out. Or it could even be, Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers, as we saw yesterday, as we might see today. And Gabriel Velarde slots in on that second line. Brian?
I'm right there. That's the thing. Like,
right there.
I don't care what the situation is. When Velarde comes back, Ehlers has to stay stapled to Scheifele. And I think that is the best way for you to optimize your offense going forward.
I agree. Kabilis, Heli for Hart Trophy consideration. I actually wrote a piece about this.
I was going to say, I'll turn this over to you because you wrote about this.
I wrote about this like a while ago, though, like a month and a half ago, I want to say. Right when the Jets were fresh off of, they had just lost that long 3 goals or less streak, 34 games. That's when I wrote the piece. I still believe it to this day. He's having the best goaltender season we've seen in probably a decade, since Carey Price in 2015. He's
on pace to smash his underlying stats, his micro stat.
Yeah.
It's insane what he's doing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I think he should definitely be in the Hart Trophy consideration. Having said that, and I know this is not going to go over well with the people that are watching, if Austin Matthews hits 70 goals or 75 goals, that should win him the Hart. That's my take. But I know I realize that this is a Jets audience and that won't go over well. But yeah, I think what he's doing, what Hellebuyck's doing, and what Matthews is doing, and what Kucherov's doing, and what McKinnon's doing, and McDavid, you've got a really strong Hart Trophy race going down the stretch here. C-Mac, who do you hope the Jets face in the first round? I've talked plenty about how the 1 seed is very important, playing one of those wild card teams. I'd rather face Colorado than Dallas, 100% because Dallas seems to have the Jets number. If you get the 1 seed, I think the 2 wildcard teams right now are LA and Nashville. I think I'd rather play Nashville, even though they're rolling lately. I mean, LA would be entertainment central.
Oh,
Dubois,
that would be
the
so fun.
like that would be awesome. And I think it's possible. Like Vancouver gets the 1 seed, the Jets get the 1 seed as well, but lower than Vancouver. So the Jets play the number 1 wildcard team. Like this, definitely a possibility. Who do you want to see the Jets face in the first round if they're the 2 seed and if they're the 1 seed playing a wildcard team?
If they're the 1 seed, I think I'm with you on Nashville. I feel like they still have too many question marks and just a lot's going right for them right now.
Mhm.
Saros has not been himself this year,
Yeah.
and they're still winning, in spite of that. And then as the 2 seed, as weird as like truly, like obviously we haven't seen them in a while, but Colorado just feels like they're open for the taking.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't feel like that dominant force they have been. They don't have goaltending. Georgiev has been so hot and cold this year, and he's been more cold than hot. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's where I stand on that.
Yeah. Steven Freeze asking, should LB get more starts? He's starting tonight. We're in the month of March where the Jets are going to be playing 400,000 million games in 30 days.
It's
So
a real
he's going to
number.
play yes, you can, that is confirmed. No, but he's going to play a lot more in the month of March, and he's earned it. Rick Bowness even talked, what was Brossois' last start? I'm blanking completely, but whatever his last start
St.
was.
Louis.
St. Louis. Yes. Thank you. After that game, he talked about how they're going to play more going forward. He's earned it, and the schedule asks for it. You agree? I'm assuming. Yeah. LB get more
Yeah,
starts.
like
Earned it. Yeah.
it feels as if he needs to get the net a little bit more, but yeah.
Yeah. I agree. What do you think of the PWHL playoff format from Matt Hyman? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read this the other day. It's the 1 seed gets to choose their first round playoff opponent, and then I also saw from the day playoffs are settled or something, they're doing the thing where it's not a lottery for the number 1 pick. You have to like beat the team that you're not in the playoffs with in points. So like whoever's the better team of the 2 that don't make the playoffs gets the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming draft, which I love. That's awesome.
Yes.
But what do you think of like kind of the choice that they have to like choose whatever team they want to play in the first round? Like if the Jets got the 1 seed, they could choose LA or Nashville. Like I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. What do you think?
The PWHL is doing so many things that I've wanted to see in terms of just like changing the game. And I really love watching PWHL hockey. And especially like I love their in addition to their playoff format, I love the idea of selecting your opponent because that also it
Yeah.
creates a level of like respect because if you select an opponent over someone else, then that team's like, oh, they're scared of us. And then
Yeah.
if you meet down the line, it's a whole thing. But I love what the PWHL does with like their jailbreak, where if you score shorthanded, it negates
Oh yeah.
the power play.
That's cool. Yeah.
Like it's
I love
stuff
that.
like that, and like as like the whole gold format,
Right.
where
So it's
it's yeah, essentially as soon as you're eliminated from the playoffs, you start accumulating points to earn the right to select first. And I think that's great because then it discourages tanking. And especially in a smaller league like that right now, that would be tough. But no, I just have one thing to say about this. And I think that the PWHL is doing it really, really well. And yeah, so Matt, yeah, first chooses between third and fourth after Matthew. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It is a league that is doing a lot of we want to show you that we're trying to change the game a little bit here and make an impact.
Mhm.
Watch the PWHL. It is so exciting. It is great.
Yeah.
And I honestly I'd like to talk about it more on the pod. And
Yeah.
it's I think the best thing about it is you can literally watch it anywhere. It's on CBC. It's on
It's on
Sportsnet.
YouTube.
It is on YouTube. It is on TSN. It is one of those things that
Yeah.
is so available to watch, and that is exactly what they needed to do, and it is
Exactly. Yeah.
working. Everyone likes it. The attendance is great. They just had the battle on Bay Street, which had 19,000 people for Toronto, Montreal. Like it's
Yeah.
just crazy. But no,
And
watch the PWHL. It's great.
yeah, agreed. And if there's one thing that I'd like to take from the PWHL and apply it to the NHL, it's the accessibility to watch the damn sport. Because,
Please.
oh my God, we can't watch NHL games without a blackout or whatever, like TV restrictions. It's ridiculous. Will Bones keep Ehlers on the top line? That is the main question. After that last game, I think it'd be tough to take him off. But again, if
And
Velarde
we've
comes
seen it.
back, yeah, Velarde's out tonight, but if he comes back Tuesday, I could totally see him just bumping him right back down. Do the Leafs get past the first? Or sorry, I missed a question here from Ronnie. What bad contract would you add to get off the books to trade for an impact guy if possible? I think the answer is Nate Schmidt here. He's making almost $6 million for this year and next.
Yeah.
Frees up a lot of money next year to re-sign a Monahan, to re-sign Perfetti. They won't struggle to re-sign those guys with how much money they're making right now, or how much money they're making, how much money they have projected to have. Yeah. But yes, I think Schmidt is the obvious one there. Is this season a lost year for Heinola? I mean, the injury kind of
feels like
set him really far back. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can Matt Hyman asking,
sad.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah. I mean, kind of next year, I think is the year for Heinola because he won't be waivers exempt.
He has to play.
He has to play. Can Ehlers handle extra minutes over the long haul? It's a genuine question. I'm not sure. I mean, it's a fair question. He did get hurt last year. He got hurt. He got hurt twice last year, and then he got hurt with neck spasms to start the year this year. It's a genuine question. I think the Jets need him on the top line for their offense to really click, though. That's the caveat to that.
Yeah, I know. I think he can handle it, and he's shown throughout his entire career when you play Ehlers in a top line role, he succeeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's enough to show that it does work. And I've been on record saying too, I don't think he's injury prone. I just think that he's one of those guys that will occasionally get caught in bad spots based on how he plays, and he plays so fast. But I mean, if you look at the first 5 seasons of his career, he played an average of 78 games a year.
Yeah.
And it was only the last couple that he's had some injury issues. But I think that, I think he can manage the minutes very well. And if anything, he'll actually make those minutes better.
Yeah, agreed. Not Mall. Is Logan Stanley tall? Yes.
I would say sources say yes.
My sources are indicating yes. Got to give Helly a rest for the long playoff run. I agree. And I think this year they're much they're set up way better. Sorry, it took me a long way to get to that. They're set up way better to give him a rest going into the playoffs than they were last year. Last year, they were fighting for their playoff lives down the stretch. They couldn't bench him. Their backup was David Riddick, who's actually having a good year in LA, but weirdly, CMAC is 400,000 million games in March, hard to cover. How many LFPs do you need to have to cover that many games? A lot, and it's very difficult to cover. We have such a tough job doing this podcast.
Oh, it's
unfortunately
every day I wake up and I'm just sore
from talking, from just yapping.
My throat, ow.
Billy Blast, will Gabriel Velarde finish the season healthy? I think so. I mean, I think they're going to give him, again, like the Hellebuck, you can give him a rest. You can give Velarde as much time as he needs to get healthy. Him being sent back to Winnipeg to be reevaluated, not great, although he was like a game time decision Saturday, so that was interesting. But I don't think it's too serious. I wouldn't be too worried just yet. Obviously, we'll hear from Bonus maybe today or back when they're at home on Tuesday against the Seattle Kraken. But yeah, I think he'll be okay. Can Lambert be an Ehlers replacement in 2 years? Speed and dynamic, stick handling, skating through traffic, and shooting at full speed. I think he can be in certain ways, and the main way I see is zone entries. Like Ehlers is one of the best players in the NHL, if not the best after Connor McDavid at entering the zone with control of the puck. And I think Lambert can replace that in a lot of ways because of the speed, because of the stick handling. He's able to maneuver his way into the zone. And Lambert, I think, can do the same thing. What do you think as Lambert and Ehlers kind of being comparable players in a sense?
I think that there's aspects, I think. And I think that that's one of those things that we need to see. I think Lambert has one more full year in the AHL to fully, get to that point where I can make a definitive assessment as to his impact to the NHL. But I think that there are aspects of his game that absolutely translate into Nikolai Ehlers' style. I just don't know if you can replace all of the good that Ehlers has brought to this team, and it'd be tough to fill those shoes.
It would, but I think Lambert's going to be a good player, and I think he's going to
Oh,
be an NHL
100%. I'm not
player.
saying he
Yeah,
won't, but I just
right.
don't know if that value
Steelers
would be
is yes.
that level. Yeah.
I agree. And I skipped over this question earlier, but Doug asking, do the Leafs get past the first round? I
I
actually
don't even know
don't
who
think
they would be
so.
playing.
Well, like Florida or Boston in the first round. I
Yeah.
like regardless of who they're playing, I think they have depth issues. And like Matthews, yes, he's going to score 70 goals and maybe win the Hart. Nylander just got a shiny new contract. He's been great. But goaltending, like Samsonov's been hot and cold this year. He's now like decent. Joseph Woll's coming off of a massive injury. I don't know. And then defensively, like outside of Morgan Riley, who's not even a true number one, I'm not really moved at their defense core. I don't know. Yeah, Jeff Cabela is saying if it's Boston, night. I agree. Like Boston's just
Yep.
got them beat in. Yeah. Do you think the Leafs get past the first round?
I think the only way they get past is somehow if they don't end up running into Boston. I think that's the only way because I feel like
I think
that,
it's
honestly,
Boston because Florida's like first in the league. Like they're way
yeah,
up
I
there.
think
Yeah.
this whole thing is too where I think the Rangers are the only team that you can pounce on because they have moments. But even then, like I mean, they beat them last night in a shootout, but it just feels like a road where they cannot get over that hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Matt Hyman bringing up how good is Monahan, hardest working Jet this week. Matt actually called it earlier in the week, so I got to give him props. Maybe I will give Monahan the hardest working Jet. Tonight's game is huge. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, if you're not checking out my stuff on Winnipeg Sports Talk, Matt's alluding to the hardest working Jet. I hand that out every week. Super fun. But yeah, that I think that's all the questions here. I don't think I
Yeah.
missed any, unless you saw one that I missed.
I don't think we did. If we
Okay.
did, sorry.
Sorry.
But
And
we are nearing an hour 20. So it
yeah,
is a point where we need to start wrapping things up here. People got things to do on a Sunday morning.
it's a Sunday,
You know,
man. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
they've had
everyone, yeah, go ahead.
their coffees. They've their coffee is empty now. So either they have to go get a new coffee or they
Yes.
have to go start doing things now. So yeah, we're gonna
Yes.
wrap here.
Yes, let's do it. Enjoy the game tonight, everyone. Again,
Yes.
super skilled young team in Buffalo. Should be a really fun one to watch. Stay glued to our socials at Level Flight WPG on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. We will be posting things from the game. So keep an eye on that. And we will be posting an episode Tuesday. I said it earlier. I didn't say his name, kind of kept the suspense, but Murat Atesh of the Athletics is going to be joining us. So check out on your podcast feed on YouTube on Tuesday. Brian, I know you're hyped to have Murat back on the pod. That'll be great.
Listen, I am just so excited to talk trades. And this is like that's the thing. Like it's a very busy type of year. And you're getting to a point where you can't avoid the trade talks. You might as well embrace
Yeah.
it. So yeah, we're bringing Murat on to, talk some obviously we're going to talk about the games that just happened. But we're going to talk trades because we are less than a week until the
Yes.
deadline. So yeah, stay as Connor said, stay glued to our socials, your podcast feeds, however you get it, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Yeah, we're going to be posting that first thing Tuesday morning. So be ready.
Yes. Stay ready for that. That's going to be super fun. Like you said, talking trades. Hopefully the Jets don't make their move before then, which then
we can break it down.
Then we can break it down. Yeah. So join us if you can Tuesday, YouTube and podcast. It'll be on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get it. Yeah, people already in chat giving their thumbs up for the Murat guest appearance. So we're super excited for that. But thank you everyone for checking out our third edition of LFP Live. On the way out, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss that interview with Murat.
Go follow us.
It's going to be a fun one. Follow us on Twitter. And yeah, join us again next Sunday for the fourth edition of LFP Live. That's going to be super fun. And yeah, thank you to everyone who joined us on this Sunday morning, is in chat, letting their thoughts heard, asking us questions. We really appreciate it. And we're super excited to keep this going moving forward. Brian,
Absolutely.
on the way out, any last thoughts?
Just thanks again, everyone, for joining us and choosing to, watch us on your Sunday mornings. And yeah, we'll see you first thing Tuesday morning with a new episode.
Yeah. See you guys then. And we will see you again live next Sunday. So come back for that. But talk to you soon Tuesday with Murat Atesh from The Athletic. See ya.
See ya.